6:30 and we have a quorum. I will call the Finance Committee of August 23rd, 2022 to order. Approval of minutes, draft minutes of the August 9th, 2022 Finance Committee meeting.
I move approval.
We have an approval. Discussion. Comments. Hearing none. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Motion carries. Moving on to item 3, public appearances, non-agenda items. We have no one in chambers or on Zoom. Moving on, item 4, the Finance Director report. We do not have Misty Dodge this evening, but we have City Administrator Chief Brecklin. Do you have any comments?
I do not have any comments. Since there is no Finance Director here, I do not have a report to share.
All right, very good, very good. We will move on to item 5, review of bills. 5A, detailed review of checks for $10,000 and above for the period of August 1st through the 15th, 2022, totaling $222,009.26. Questions, discussion? Hearing none, we will move on to the next item, 5B, detailed review of all checks issued, checks 123779 through 123832 for the period of August 1st through the 15th, 2022, totaling $301,464.49. Discussion, questions from the committee? Hearing none, we will move on to our action items, which is item 6A. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution R-167-22, amending the 2022 grant donation fund and forfeiture fund budgets, police training?
I move approval.
We have an approval. And will I be turning this over to Chief Morales? Okay, very, very good, Chief. You have the floor. Thank you.
Great. Thank you all very much for approving this piece. There's just a little background, and we're talking post-COVID, the last couple of years, training and just contact with large groups of people was very difficult. So like many other departments, we've held back training. This year, post-COVID, growing with a younger department, we need to get them trained and get them up to speed, especially in some of the specialty positions like instructor courses, where we're trying to specialize certain areas within the department. In addition to that, some of the training that we're sending our management there is quite costly. So our training budget alone could not accommodate the types of training courses. The executive deputy chief was sent to a school that was approximately $10,000. He went there for 3 weeks in July and really brought back a lot of good ideas. That was out on the East Coast. That said, there's 2 pots of money that we can grab additional funds, and one is asset forfeiture. The other piece is in through the Badger Bounce Back funds that are available through the governor's account, which was announced at the beginning of the year. We're looking to pull from both of those pots additional funds to take on the additional training costs that we are accruing for 2022. 10,000, I believe it's 12,000 from the asset forfeiture funds, and we're looking at 10,000 from the Badger Bounce Back funds.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Chief. Discussion from the committee. Yes, Alder Wheeler, go ahead.
Yeah, Chief, do you have any ideas what you're going to do with the Safer Communities Initiative funding?
From the
the 94,000.
That's where we're taking some of that for training.
Just training right now?
Training right now, we're going to come back with another amendment item on bicycles.
Oh.
We're requesting, I believe, in a future amendment, there's going to be approximately 12 bikes, 6 motorized bicycles and 6 traditional bicycles. We're in the process of getting those documents going for a future meeting to request approval. Those funds all have to be some type of community-related types of items that you purchase, including the training that we're doing that's specific to some of the cases, some of the parts where that money would be okay for leadership, community-oriented policing type courses, things of that nature is where you can use that, the money from the Badger Bounce Back.
Okay. Are you going to get a regular bike or an e-bike?
I don't know what we're gonna get, but we'll have them available to continue to that community outreach.
Very good. Yes, Alder Gerhart, go ahead.
This is more just a point of curiosity, the DEA forfeiture. So that's the DEA basically, can you explain what that money is? I feel like I have a sense of what it might be, but I'm just curious how that functions.
It could be a number of different things, large money seizures during drug investigations. Oftentimes, that's where it comes from. It could be an investigation initiated through Fitchburg Police Department, or an investigation initiated by another agency, federal agency like DEA, where Fitchburg Police participated. Depending on the amounts, it gets, let's just say, Fitchburg, Sun Prairie, DEA, and Madison were involved. The amount of work out of each unit will proportionally be distributed to the agency. So if we had one officer, Sun Prairie had 2 officers, and Madison had 5, they would be getting the brunt of the money seized. And the money does not get passed on to the city until those cases all get resolved.
Very good. Further discussion, comments, questions? Hearing none. I'll place the motion before us to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you, Chief. Thank you. Moving on to the next action item, 6B. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution R-166-22, resolution to approve a state municipal agreement for 2022 through 2026, Transportation Alternatives Program Grant, and this is a direct referral.
I move approval.
We have an approval, and Chad, you're going to speak to this item?
I will, yes. So the city of Fitchburg has embarked on a partnership with the Fitchburg Chamber of Commerce and B-Cycle to begin or to implement a B-Cycle program here in Fitchburg. If you'll recall correctly, I think Alder Wheeler and Alder Udell, you're on CETA. $50,000 was allocated from CETA funding to begin part of Phase 1 for the B-Cycle implementation. That implementation has started, albeit slowly. I think we're waiting. We've got some estimates on some back-ordered equipment until at least October at this point. So the actual implementation and rollout of Phase 1 might be a little bit delayed by winter at this point in time and supply chain issues. But the city did apply to the Department of Transportation for their Transportation Alternatives Program Grant, otherwise referred to as a TAP grant. And we were selected to be awarded for that. And the state actually offered to increase their funding percent from, I think it was 70% to 80% if we were willing to accept and enter into an agreement already in this fiscal year for Phase 2. So we thought that made sense to go ahead and commit for Phase 2. That increased our grant funding by another 10% and obviously decreased the amount of match that would be required by the city, which is likely to be done, is intended to be done through fundraising efforts by B-Cycle specifically. They'll be doing, continuing their outreach with businesses and other organizations who might be willing to help sponsor and implement the program through the ability to advertise on the cycles and those sorts of things. So I know B-Cycle has been out raising funds for Phase 1. I think they are at or near their fundraising goal for Phase 1. And then by us accepting this grant, they'll continue working on that fundraising as it relates to Phase 2 as well. So we do have, I think we have actually 2 years to utilize this grant funding, so we're not under any undue pressure. We just need to make sure that we begin to allocate these funds through contracts and agreements to roll these things out and purchase the equipment in order to satisfy the state requirements. So you'll see in here that we would be awarded a total of $323,000, and then that would leave approximately $80,000, which would be considered the match on that. And again, the intent is that would not come from city funding. It would come from private donations sought by B-Cycle. Questions at all?
So that match or the remaining portion, the 80,000, that is strictly all private money then? I mean, is that the idea?
That is the intent. Obviously, the city of Fitchburg, by entering into the agreement, is the responsible party on that. If for whatever reason the fundraising fell short, we would have to meet that match with city funding. One thing that has been identified, obviously, through the ARPA and TID investment planning process was setting aside some money for grant matches and those sorts of things, and that could be a potential grant to utilize all or a portion of those funds. But I can assure you that we are working very closely with the Chamber of Commerce and B-Cycle both on those fundraising efforts to ensure that they're able to get out and do the solicitations and so forth. So, and we're also cautiously optimistic that once Phase 1 rolls out and people start to see the cycles out and about in the Fitchburg community with regularity, that may also incentivize some folks to make some donations. I think the commitment right now that a few of the businesses have entered into, it's a 3-year commitment for $5,000 per year for a total of $15,000, which will get them some advertising and also, potentially, depending on where they are making that donation, placement of a dock or two there. And we're looking at spreading the docks out throughout, I would say largely north of McKee Road. I know that we're looking at Phase 1 having a couple of docks in McKee Farms Park, and then also looking at, Phase 2 having docks at Hub Phase 1 at the park there once that begins construction and it's appropriate to go ahead and put docks in there. And really trying to build that a connected network where you could go easily within Fitchburg using B-Cycle if you wanted to drop the bike at a dock, or if you ultimately wanted to ride into Madison or one of the other neighboring communities with one of the B-Cycles and drop the bike at one of the docks there and pick up one whenever you're ready to come back out to Fitchburg. So we think it's a really good opportunity for us to, continue that into certain regards, urbanization, kind of giving it more of a community feel here in Fitchburg, and we'll hope you support this acceptance of this grant.
Well, it's in my mind, it's a good program, and I was just very pleased to see that $323,000 grant, considering it's a $404,000 request. I mean, to me, that's sizable, and I'm sure we won't have a problem with raising that additional funding through the business community, but it's a great program. Other questions, comments?
I just think it's a good program because it gives people, who may not have a car, may not have good bus service, an opportunity to really expand and, just visit the parks, go downtown, visit the library, and it's very cost effective. It's really not a lot of money to get a subscription to use the B-Cycle, so
Yeah.
I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, so am I. Very good. Hearing no further discussion or questions, I'll place the motion before us to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Moving on to item 7, announcements. The next meeting, Finance Committee meeting, is scheduled for September 13th, 2022. With that, we do have a light schedule, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have a motion to adjourn. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Motion carries. We are adjourned at 6:44 p.m. Thank you.